Hello, and a warm welcome to the Transform Your Wellness podcast. I'm Karin Hagberg, your host and dedicated wellness and life coach. My mission is to guide individuals towards profound transformations in their well-being and life journey, fostering balance, optimal health, and the pursuit of a fulfilling existence. Join us for the Transform Your Wellness podcast for genuine and inspiring dialogues with remarkable individuals who are wholeheartedly dedicated to their passions and soul's calling. These conversations delve into the journey of those who have not only revolutionized their own lives, but also strive to empower others in their transformational endeavours, making meaningful contributions to the world. And today, I have the absolute privilege to have heartfelt conversations with Danelle Boyles. Danelle is joining us from Evansville, Indiana, in the United States. Danielle wears many hats in her life, a devoted mother to 2 boys and the loving caregiver of 2 energetic dogs and 4 cats. But her role extends far beyond her family lives. She's an intuitively guided channeler, energetic alchemist, and a seasoned educator with 20 years of experience. Danelle is also a small business owner, an accomplished artist, and a globally published writer. As if that wasn't impressive enough, she's a certified sound healing practitioner and emotions into art practitioner. Danelle serves as a consciousness coach, a global humanitarian, I can't say the word, ambassador, and holds various roles in non-profit organizations, notably the United Humanitarians Organizations. You have to correct me with that soon, Danelle. And the Glory Future Foundation. Danelle thrives on helping others navigate life's challenges, teaching them how to overcome adversity and find peace through the Maharishi effect. As a completed muralist and intuitive artist, she guides individuals in transforming their emotions into art, spreading the movement of Just Heal and aiding in the healing of deep-seated traumas. She's proud owner of Emotions in the Art Healing Studios and have participated in over 300 gallery showings and live events. Join us as we delve into Danielle's journey of learning, growth, and healing, and discover how she's transforming lives one brushstroke at a time. And today's podcast is called, the title is Peace Within Through Turbulent Times, an Awakening Journey. So with that, I am so excited to have you here, Danelle, and have a conversation today and really get to know you a lot more. So can I just say first that Danelle and we actually met online. And we were in a group and she made a comment and we connected somehow. And I always follow my intuition and felt guided to reach out to Danelle. And this has taken us basically to this moment here now where I really, really am interested in you, Danelle. So can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Well, sure. I'd be happy to. It's a great pleasure to join you here today, and I'm very excited to speak with you in person. We have many things to talk about, many things in common, and I feel like this conversation and the conversational platform is going to just really take off in all kinds of different directions. But I am Danelle Boyles. I'm in the United States, and I try to not overwhelm with my introduction because I do wear many hats. I'm very globally involved in many organizations and carrying out all different global endeavors that involve education, conscious awareness, global humanitarian efforts through the different organizations. And I partake in all different kinds of things in life. My boys being my, number one priority. I have a 16 and a 28-year-old, and a house full of animals and art. And I try to delve into as many corners of interest in life as possible, and that involves healing through learning to alchemize your own emotional adversities and traumas. And as a sound healing practitioner, and it kind of encompasses everything, being an educator, an artist. I'm a writer, and I also host and conduct global worldwide conferences through the organizations that I partake in. I'm a cabinet member of the United Humanitarians Organization as the United States Director. And the Glory Future Foundation, I'm a speaking ambassador for them. And not only that, but 2 years ago, when I first kind of joined forces with them, I fell in love with the whole aspect of what they were about. They're mainly based in Bangladesh. And so I work with a lot of children that come from like third world poverty type situations. And I teach classes with them via online every weekend. And then that's been for about 2 years. And I'm a full-time special education job coach, student workforce trainer with our local school corporation. So
That's a
I
few
go
hats.
and I go. And so basically that's my life. I don't know. My whole philosophy is that there's a lot of work to be done, and we're doing it, and I'm
That's
here for it.
Wow, that's
So,
incredible. It makes me think, how does she fit it all in? And there's also always a story behind someone like yourself that do what you do. And obviously, you say there's work to be done, and that's how I live my life too. There's work to be done here now.
yeah.
What started you on your, I guess, your awakening journey? Because it usually starts from something, doesn't it?
It does. And with a lot of my clients I work with, it kind of starts in that area too. So it usually begins with trauma. You've been through some sort of life event or events that has interjected the need for change, acceptance, and alchemy in your life. And for me, there were things, I mean, I've always been from a young age intuitive, have had different things happen in life that, always kind of separated you a little bit from, how you felt
Mm.
you didn't quite ever, ever really fit, and all through my life, I've had, different life events that kind of altered the person that I am. And then as an adult, the most pivotal change for me was going through some very difficult times with my late husband that had a lot of mental health and physical health issues that um, at the time I was not quite as aware and as educated as I am now in the whole consciousness process, and how we move through the expansion and energetic process of growing consciously. And I now know that a lot of what he went through and experienced is associated with those things that we experience through conscious growth.
Mm.
Um, but my most pivotal time was when I lost him just over 3 years ago.
Mm.
And it has been, I say that I took the long road very fast.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, a very quick, accelerated awakening in the course of about 3 years.
Mm. So when we talk about awakening, there may be some listeners or people that are watching going, what are they talking about, this awakening? So
Yeah.
maybe you can elaborate a little bit more when you talk about awakening. You might also want to go into, I know you're a little bit into the Kundalini as well, maybe.
just a little.
Just a
Um,
little. So,
um, sure. As part of going through awakening, and there's specific persons that are here at this time during the whole process of the collective consciousness awakening, which is where we move into basically a higher consciousness of ourselves that allows our minds to open and function and utilize a much larger portion of our mind and our brain and of our not just physical person, but our conscious person. Everything expands. And when it expands, you become much more connected universally to many things, not just other people, but to like a consciousness that's collected and inadvertently connected to pretty much everyone that you have a connection to. And it just becomes this whole like network of consciousness to the world. And when that happens, you awaken to just a whole different point of view of everything from your own self beliefs and limiting beliefs, constructs that constrict your way of thinking, because we're all born, raised, and reared with all of these learned behaviors that come from, parents, grandparents, social aspects, friends, um, anything, anything that is influential on how and what we learn, and that's everything from how we view ourselves, how we view society, how we take care of ourselves, how we think, religion, sexuality, like it affects everything. And so as you go through that awakening, it expands your mind to not be so constricted. Becomes a much bigger world.
And we are all on that journey now. It's non-stoppable now.
No, it's not. And it actually kind of started in an accelerated process about 6 years ago. Yeah. 3 years ago is when it got really fast. And then currently in the last year, everyone's like, what the heck is going on? And we're all sitting here going, we tried to tell you it was happening, it was coming, and now everybody's like, why didn't you tell us? And we're like, but we have been.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It is fascinating. And sometimes it's interesting when I reflect on myself, that how come that I was, it's like my whole life was a preparation to this point.
yeah,
To be
absolutely.
And, all the trauma, all the challenges, all the life experiences is now some really valuable tools that I have that can then help others. Because, I mean, the thing is, we are all one consciousness and we are all going to awaken, and it is unstoppable. And it's just that we are, I guess, at different, places on that journey, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. And the reason for that is, and there are some that have very in-depth knowledge of this, because there are people who are what's considered like frontliners. Somebody has to go ahead. They have to anchor this energy. Someone has to hold the line, they have to hold the space. And that's when we say holding space, or holding the frequency. That's what we're referring to, because someone has to take the task of moving consciously and energetically first into the expansive space, and then others follow behind once the space is cleared. And for some, this concept can fully grasp it, and for others it's very difficult to grasp if you're just like in the very beginning throes. You're very encapsulated, and this is life, and this is all we see, and you have your blinders on, and it's like having tunnel vision, and you're just a human walking on the planet, going to work, eating your food, coming home, watching TV, and that's all life consists of, you know. But when you start to go through the expansive process, it broadens and broadens. So as a person moves through, there's different waves. Because first of all, if everybody went through expansion at the same time, at the same pace, the world would absolutely lose its mind more than it already is. Because it's a process. It's literally like a purge of
Yeah.
low vibrational behaviors,
Mm.
and it has to happen before you can accelerate and move into the higher energetic frequency, because that lower vibrational energy has to be offloaded, and it
Yeah.
causes quite a stir of behavior. You know,
Absolutely.
it does.
Yeah, yeah.
But it happens in waves, so everybody's on a different platform of
Mm.
processing.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's like having another job on top of your job. Isn't it? I mean, I talk to people like yourself and you get it, because I go, there's some days where, I mean, you can't, there's some people you can talk to about it and they
Yeah,
understand, but then there's others that don't. And I guess that's why we connected too, because
absolutely.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no doubt. And sometimes I feel personally that I have gone through, it's like my whole body is, I mean, going through purging. It's like I'm rebuilding my whole body.
Yeah.
I'm now at a space where I'm feeling freaking good at the moment. But it's like so much of the pain through different parts have been
Mm.
extreme for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so maybe you want to elaborate on that, what people can expect when they go on that journey,
Mhm.
um, and tap into maybe the Kundalini a little bit as well. And
Yeah, sure. It kind of encompasses, like you said, you're not just going through a conscious change, but you're going through a physical change. Because, I mean, if you think about it, you know, energy is completely transferable. It's everywhere around you. You are energy. Your whole physical consciousness and your body being operates on energy and the ebb and flow of it. And it's all in a universal flow that's in cohesion with the universe. And it literally like affects everything from your sleep to your eating patterns to your bathroom habits to illnesses. Like, it manipulates most everything about your being. And
yeah,
so when you're moving into the higher energetic frequencies, your body is literally having to break down and rebuild slowly in these very, very fractal, compartmentalized pieces. You know, like your consciousness is split into, I mean, if you really want to break it down, there's like 12. The way I've always been downloaded it is that there's 12 timelines per dimension, and you can accelerate into each timeline as a higher version of yourself. And so you have to break down and rebuild into those higher versions to be able to adapt to hold that higher energy. And so you kind of have to feel sick. You kind of have to go through, you know, some crappy days that your muscles really hurt or you have a lot of joint pain, you know, headaches. And the headaches are crown chakra activations, because your crown literally like opens to this energy. And every time you have a headache, this is your crown energy trying to connect with you. And there's people going through a lot of migraines and physical discomfort right now because of it. And so, as a consciousness coach, this is kind of one thing I that I help with, because when I do my energy clearings, it helps alleviate that, and it helps them clear the energy, the blockages, so that they open up and they just offload the energy that they're storing that's trying to be released. Because a lot of people, they can't. They've held it for so long in their physical being, and they're ready to consciously move, but they can't release the trapped emotions. And so they need a little bit of help from energy workers to do that.
so that's when the alchemy comes in.
Yeah. And the
Yes.
Kundalini, yeah, you know, because Kundalini is basically just life force energy. And so those who can channel they channel it, and then it's dispersed throughout what's called the gridding that's holding our reality together, and our energy field together.
Mm.
Um, and then, once you're anchored into it, then it kind of pulses out to
Mm.
whoever is anchored through the energetic field with you.
Mm.
And so Kundalini is basically just clearing energy that is flowing through your body. It's igniting, you know, different key components, activations that awaken your mind and body in different ways.
Have you done that and practiced a lot of Kundalini yoga?
So much.
I started, yeah, I started doing Kundalini training a while back,
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
it is amazing. Yeah, it's definitely a
Yeah.
beautiful practice to do, but yeah.
Yeah. I do a lot on my Facebook profile. I just posted one 20 minutes before we got on here and chat. There's a third eye and crown activation and clearing that I posted.
Yeah.
Um, I had client sessions yesterday, but I do a lot of nonprofit and free work online
Okay.
because there's just so many people that have needed help, like moving through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying the energy has sped up a lot in the last few years. Obviously, we had the big event that happened in the world that I guess, depending on how we look at it, it's happened for us, I think, too, because it is awakening a lot of people now, isn't it?
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, and kind of what happens is, and what happened is that, you know, Mother Gaia, whoever runs the show, kind of got fed up with humanity screwing around and not, taking things seriously. And um, some things, that were, I don't know the term to use really, things that were not handled, that were damaged and destroyed by human factor. That fractured things like timelines and, consciousness are being corrected and healed. And so being put in an accelerated process means that we're working in multiple layers of consciousness, of being in like a homeostasis state while things are very rapidly accelerating in the background. And for people who are highly energy sensitive, this is very intense on their body, their consciousness, their body, everything that they are experiencing is happening to them in real time at an accelerated pace.
Mm.
Whereas collectively, it is, but it isn't, because they're not going through it as rapidly.
Mm.
But when they are, they're experiencing it in their sleep, or in their what's called a homeostasis state, which is where you're in almost like, I call it freeze state. It's kind of like you just are very disassociated and disconnected. And so when you're in that kind of state, everything is happening very fast, like in the background. And then you just kind of wake up very refreshed, very kind of new and alert. And it's a little more painless for
Mm.
them. But
Mm.
that's how it goes, how it works.
Exactly. So when people talk about 3D moving into 5D, can you elaborate
Mhm.
a little bit on that?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is part of it that a lot of people kind of misconceive. Um, we're actually anchored very, very high already, even up to like the 24th dimension, because that future expansion is already kind of set.
Mm.
And the difference is it's all in consciousness. It's not like a literal place. It's in the way of thinking, the way of perception, seeing things in the mind's eye. And it's really just a conscious point of view and how you experience your reality. So like in, 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, and 7D is the expanse that we're anchored in right now. And collective, everyone is going to eventually be in more or less 5 or 6D. And then only like frontliners who are holding the frequency will be in 7.
Mm.
And 3D will not, it doesn't even exist anymore. Like it's gone. 3D's collapsed. 3D is no longer even in existence. But it's kind of like just taking a lot of really good naps. The misconception, even with a lot of people who are energy workers or say, light workers or, people who are like dedicated to making this energetic movement, they're like, oh, we're going to have this huge shift and all of a sudden we're going to be in this paradise and everything's going to be different. And that's not really how it works. It's kind of like everything just becomes more pleasant. Anger doesn't explode. When you're in certain frequencies, you just don't have the ability to lose your temper, like really lose your cool. Eventually, the temperament is going to be a very calmed, peaceful. You just can't get like really mad. That's why everyone is learning to communicate properly, to handle situations differently. The what I refer to as the Maharishi effect, which is part of like the peace process, which is where you regulate yourself to learn to eventually acclimate yourself to be able to handle anything with. This is really driving me crazy the way my sleeve keeps flashing. I'm trying to like not move my arm so it doesn't do that.
It's all good.
We got the disappearing arm. Um, but when you utilize the Maharishi effect, and you move into like the peace process, that is where you zero in on how your frequency affects everything around you. The more people that carry a balanced energy, the more universally we carry a balanced energy, and it spans out like the water droplet, and the effects of it from each individual person to another becomes worldwide. And eventually we're just carrying a very chill, very peaceful existence.
It's interesting you're saying that the emotions will be much more balanced, I suppose. Or, I mean, myself, I can say that I said to a friend the other day, I just don't do anger. Like it's just, I just don't do that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very rare.
yeah, yeah,
Those of us that are high frequency carriers, it's very rare for us to lose our tempers. It's only during energetic shifts when
yeah,
I refer to as like the bubble bursting that
yeah,
happens just before we make a consciousness shift.
yeah.
It's kind of like everybody's like a bunch of ants in a jar that's been shaken, and then everything's fine and calm again. And
Yeah, I can
it's
relate
like,
to that
oh,
too.
yeah,
Definitely.
it's like, where did that come from?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's been some interesting things happening for me in life lately. And a lot of it has been, I guess, I there's so many new things coming into life, and there's so much of the old that's just anything that doesn't serve me at the moment, if it's people or things, whatever, it just goes and
Yeah,
the universe just arranges itself so quickly now. And
yeah,
and how I now look at it, it's just like the energy is just phenomenal when it comes to how it does things like that. So what would you say about that? Because I mean, sometimes that can be a little bit challenging for people too, because as humans, I think our the way we have dealt with that is that we don't want to necessarily let go of some things. We want to with people and, with things, it's hard to kind of let go and just trust and let the universe guide us, if that makes sense. So can you give your insight on that?
Yeah, I've experienced a lot of that myself. And it's to do with, so many things. It's not just people, it's your environments, it's jobs, financial situations. And even from my own personal experience, after we lost my husband, and I have a whole different point of view of how all of that operates too, because we're all just existing in different dimensional values. And so I really had to evaluate how we lived life, and hold faith. And, the whole time that I'm going through this, not just terrible grief process that is accelerated, I was also going through my expansion process. So, the whole time, my higher self is like guiding me and speaking to me and, helping operate me through all of these challenges. And the constant message always is don't have fear. You're always going to be taken care of. You just have to embody that concept that you just walk. It's like walking on a sidewalk blindly, knowing that you're not going to trip or fall over a crack, or that you're going to twist your ankle in a hole, and that you are being held,
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that. And it's the same, we have attachment to everything, people, situations, our finances, our homes. And you just eventually learn that no matter what it is that you lose or,
Mm.
shift out of, that's just the way the universe is working for you in your favor.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, you mentioned about attachments, and that's a really interesting topic in itself. I had an experience myself where I actually got some guidance from someone, and I am obviously intuitively guided, and it came to me, I have attachment, I need to work on that, but I need some help. So I went to see a person that helped me with that, and instantaneously, Danelle, everything has shifted, and so fast. It's been absolutely incredible. So when we talk about attachments, we talk about energetic attachments, or it could be also soul contracts. So can you tap into that a little bit so people understand what is that all about? Can there be that there's an attachment, I need to actually clear that to more easily move forward in my life?
Yeah. As I was going through a lot of my own learning and trial and error, as a channeler, I get conscious downloads like all the time that are to be kind of like broadcasted, so that other people can learn and grow and understand that what they're going through or experiencing is normal. And attachment, um, can be all different kinds of things. And like you said, with soul contracts, we all we move through this human experience. And this is the thing that a lot of people have a hard time understanding. It's funny because my mom actually stood in my kitchen today during our Mother's Day brunch, and we had this conversation that she watched this video of how we've evolved through all of these different lifetimes of beings and existences. And I'm like, bing, yay. It's kind of like a she gets
Yeah.
it. Because it's hard for people to conceptualize how you have soul contracts with different people, um, because it kind of negates some of the free will in life. And
Mm.
people don't like the idea that our lives are kind of scripted, but whenever you incarnate into each lifetime experience, you kind of paraphrase in these lifetime contracts of what you want to learn while you're here, what you want to experience, how difficult you want your life to be, or how easy you want your life to be, and I always said my higher self is a real badass because she like picked the absolute hardest things for me to experience and go through, not just in life and love and loss and career, but through my expansion process. It was a lot because it was very accelerated.
Mm-hmm.
And those soul contracts are just basically ties with other people who we kind of travel through all of these lifetimes with, that we want to interact with and learn from. And the attachment, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. Sometimes it's people that are attached to us that don't want to let us go when it's time to move on. Once we've learned, the different things, either, something that they are to learn from us, maybe they didn't treat us well and we had to let them go because, we had to respect ourselves to flourish and grow, and then in turn, they had to learn that, they couldn't behave a certain way and expect to still be respected. So, and then once you fulfill that contract, then you go your own ways, and sometimes it's very hard when you become entangled with each other to release those contracts. So then, kind of back to the quantum entanglement of energy, you need help sometimes from people who are embodied with the ability to manipulate energy, quantum energy, to help you release those, and you literally just do, visualizations of, looking and seeing where these attachments are. Sometimes they're darker, negative energies that are kind of feeding off of you, even,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't use a lot of terms like that. I'm very different in my practices, that I'm a very modern day shaman energy worker. And so I don't utilize a lot of the typical like lingo, things like succubuses and, energy vampires and stuff like that. It's all to each their own, but it's a lot of terminology that I don't really use. I feel like sometimes some of it is insulting, and we're all just people that are just here in a learning process.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about, the new earth coming and a timeline split as well. And that may be new to a lot of people. Some listeners might be familiar with the topic, but how can you elaborate a little bit on the timeline shifts and how you see that kind of unfold, and also a little bit about the new earth, so to say, that, is slowly emerging?
Yeah, I consciously, it kind of takes you back to where I was talking about like frontline energy workers, because those that are anchored in the very highest energy bracket, and they're still in the lowest energy bracket, and they're constantly in oscillation, moving back and forth, because they have to carry the highest frequency, and they are still down here doing what I call like the loop around, and they have to come back into a 0 point, which is where we finally meet ourselves back to where we're anchored in our highest good. But we're still having to come back down and do the work through all of our past timelines until they're all evolved out.
Yeah.
And we're doing future work also at the same time. It's all
Yeah.
linear.
Yeah.
But New Earth, I don't really like, I mean, like I recognize it, I understand it. I get conscious downloads about it, but I feel like it is also a limiting belief. I try very hard to stay away from anything that is a limiting belief that limits where I can be and function or how I experience something, just because I'm completely open to going wherever I can, like, and whenever you cut ties with any kind of limiting beliefs, then it doesn't affect you. And the concept that there are two different existences is true and whole, because everything just functions in different levels of vibrational frequency.
Mm.
So if you really theoretically want to look at it, in that aspect, there are thousands of variations of that concept,
Mm.
not just two.
It's based on our perception, isn't it, really? Because we create,
Yeah,
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 that's how I see it.
yeah. And so, in a way, it's a little disheartening, because the idealization that a lot of people that we love and care about are not going with us into higher consciousness. And that's where what, everyone perceives as human death comes in,
Mm.
is that those that are not going with us into higher consciousness are passing in our reality, and they're staying behind in their own reality. And then for them, we are no longer in their reality as well.
Mm.
you know
I
and
was
if
just
you
I was just going to say, Danelle, I was going to tap into that, because
yeah,
obviously that is a lot of people's reality right now, and I've
yeah,
experienced that myself. Um,
yeah,
it's not always easy, but it's
mm,
something that is just happening. And we all have a choice. We all have an individual journey. And as I bring it back, we all connected. We all soul family, all of us. And I mean, I sit here with you and I go, there's a connection, and it's not just physical blood, like, family
yeah,
connection. We all connected.
yeah,
And I guess it's a concept that is a little bit more new to, us now. It's in our face a lot, because a lot of people will go the other, they won't come with us as such.
yeah,
And that in itself can be a little bit of a, sometimes a little bit of a challenging
yeah.
concept for a lot. And so how do you see now, with this expansion of energy, the upgrading of energy, do you see a lot of souls not, I guess, being left behind or decide to leave the physical reality? How do
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. I'm sorry. How do I what?
yeah, so I
How do
was,
I perceive that?
yeah, how do you perceive that? And what,
Um,
or do you see that a lot of humans will, I guess, decide that they're not going to continue on the journey here on Earth?
I do, and I do see it a lot, and I see it in a completely different concept than what can be perceived by the human mind, because I have been very connected to the highest and the lowest. I still even have a lot of soul connection and open energy that's channeling to people who are in those other spaces. Um, Something that I also do that is relevant to that is being a rescue Kundalini um, alchemist. And so, what that entails is, when we're on the brink of a conscious shift, there's going to be a particular group of people, that we're connected to, that really want to go, like they really want to, but they're at the end of their rope of being able to handle the emotional offloading and the physical offloading that's necessary for it.
Mm.
Um, A word that comes to mind that my late mother-in-law, um, who was a Turkish Jewish lady, very sweet lady, and from Israel, and Kovask, she would tell me when she was very tired, and Kovask Danny, she would say, I just don't have the energy.
Mm.
And so they are running out of the energy to be able to transmute and alchemize their own experience, because it's a lot. I mean, from what I understand, is we are moving through about 1,000 years worth of karmic energy in 3 years.
Mm.
So it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And myself, I started this very long time ago, and I've had much gradual kind of way of working through my, I guess, call it awakening or spiritual awakening. And I think about the humans now that are they just starting their journey, and now it's ramping up so very quickly. How, yeah, I can't put myself in their shoes of
Mhm.
how that would be, because it's
Yeah,
happening so fast now.
yeah. And when it happens, when you're a channeler and you're connected to so many people that are going through the process, it's like all of a sudden you just feel this overwhelming need from so many people that they're kind of like just crying out for help, and you kind of grab all of their energetic etheric cords consciously and transmute whatever they're going through very quickly,
Mm, mm,
and you just kind of like pull them over. And whenever I do a lot of kundalini sessions that I put it online, that it's like, okay, here's your lifeline, guys, grab on and let's go. um
mm,
it's a lot of emotional transmuting all at once, but it's very quick. I don't retain or hold any kind of emotional content from it, and it's kind of like, once it's past, like there's no residual. But it's an overwhelming feeling to know that there are so many people that are on the brink of just being done. And
mm.
that part of the reason I do what I do, my whole thing is nobody gets left behind,
Yeah.
is that, my husband told me, he was like, I can't do it. I can't. And that's how a lot of people are. And I'm like, I will help as many people as I can. That's my job, being uh, a frontline ascendant and coming up in the rear.
Mm,
It's our job
mm.
to make sure that everyone who needs to get through can get through in the time that's needed.
Yeah, because yeah, it certainly can be very overwhelming, and
Mhm.
sometimes yeah, if someone can have help, um, you know, being guided through that emotional overwhelm, I suppose, then
Mhm.
definitely someone, I don't want to say be saved, but sometimes we are at the brink of when we are so overloaded with huge
Mhm.
emotions. Um, to have that guidance can be absolutely life-changing. So there's no doubt
Yeah.
amazing work you do. Now, um, there's a couple of things before we finish today that I want to take up before we
Oh,
finish.
it's a lot. I feel like I don't want to overwhelm the audience with too
Uh,
much information, because
there's a
when you
lot.
watch a podcast, it is a lot.
There's a lot.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because when somebody views a podcast like this with so much information, they're downloading like things that are going to help them move into different higher fractals of their consciousness. And they'll get done watching it and they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Well, all we can say, Danelle, that obviously information about the two of us and that people, listeners and people who are watching can contact us for, obviously, so they can get, support and learn more, I suppose. So just a couple of things very quickly. At the moment, there's a lot of solar activity. The sun and the solar flares obviously impacting the Earth's field and that's also helping with I guess the awakening process, and more light is coming in, all that sort of stuff. Do you follow that a lot? And are you very sensitive, just like myself, to when there's
Yeah.
flares?
If there are two things that I follow out of everything that affects someone who is energetically sensitive, it is the Schumann chart and the solar flares. Everything else is very relevant. The lunar cycles, different calendar events that are considered energetic gateways, all different kinds of things. But the solar and the Schumann are the two most prominent because they are the most clearing. And they're also the ones that we go through most commonly. Now, Schumann is usually much more in a homeostasis state. Like when it's in a balanced state, we don't always see like the very large spikes that are happening. And these are happening purposefully to force and clear out low vibrational energy. And it's also integrating old fractured timelines, and it's integrating new timelines. So as we're falling off, it's constantly in a rotation of like integrating and exiting. The solar flares are phenomenally impactful on a person's physical health. Solars, I have to say, when they really ramp up, especially at the accelerated pace that we have been, and it's funny because there was just a conversation on one of the 5D sites that somebody said we're being fried, we're being poisoned with radiation sickness with
Oh,
this last solar storm, and I was like, they were trying to say that it's 5G energy and I'm like, people don't understand that when you take in solar radiation in small increments, it's not really impactful, but whenever you're in an accelerated state, time-wise, if you take a solar flare or geomagnetic storm or any kind of solar energy and something that you are supposed to be expanding through over the course of like, I don't know, 24 hours, and you compact it down to an hour, yeah, it's going to make you sick. You're going to get radiation sickness from it, but then that's where the breaking down and the building back up, whereas typically you would go to bed, take a nap, feel kind of icky for an hour or so, but instead it's being highly impactful. So everybody's feeling like they got hit by a bus, or they're having severe migraines. So the solar activity is so much more rampant because, again, going through acceleration, you're going boom, 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 and just like one after another. And what people also will have a difficult time conceptualizing is that whenever we come to a point of shifting into the next level, whatever is supposed to happen over the course of like several weeks, it's kind of like a ticker, and you're going, going, going. And once you hit a certain level of offloading, it's kind of like the universe is like, okay, they're ready to jump.
yeah.
But you have to hit, it's kind of like tipping the scale. You have to continuously hit that next level. And you're collapsing. It's collapsing time in a very short period of time. So you could be collapsing 10 solar storms in a matter of just a couple of days. And it's highly impactful.
Yeah. And as anything, some people are, I mean, like you and me, very, very sensitive to it. And I speak to some people and they're not really picking up on it, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
quite extraordinary. But
Yeah.
I've always I look back and I always think I've always been affected to weather in the barometric pressure, and
Yeah.
ways I can tell when there's storms coming and things like that. It's interesting, eh?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, um, I also know you're a sound healer, and I want to finish off like this today because I actually do sound healing. I've got 9 crystal singing bowls here near me, Danelle, and I know that sound, the energy of sound is going to be one of the big healing modalities moving forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, what's your take on that? Because that is, I'm guided more and more towards the sound and the frequency. Not just because it's beautiful, because it really truly is healing. And yeah, so you obviously do some sound healing as well.
Yeah, I have over the course of the last 3 years probably performed over 1,000 sessions, um, individual and group. And that's including like large groups with, large amount of people, events and things like that. Um, I kind of stumbled into sound healing. I was doing an art event at a friend's shop, and I was doing a live painting event, and she happened to just get a set of bowls in her shop. And I was like, oh gosh, I really didn't at the time have the idealization that I was going to do with them what I am. There was only 3 bowls in the set. The other 2 got broken that were with it. And we did some trade. And a year and a half later, I was taking a certification online to get certified as a sound healer. Even when I brought them home, I didn't really do a whole lot with them for a while.
Mm.
And then I all of a sudden had the aha that okay, so this is where we're going with this. I just thought, they were cool. I knew they served a purpose. And then I kind of collected a couple of different other pieces. I have a few, like I have 4 bronze bowls that are from India that I got from a tribe of monks that travel here and do different meet and greets. And so I got some from them and a couple from a couple other different places. And I have some drums, and I use it's not a hand pan, but it's a tongue pan. I use a tongue pan also for reverberation. And I never could figure out why. I never was fully inclined to get a full set of bowls, but it's because the work that I do energetically is mostly in lower sacral clearing, and my lighter one is crown. But with the sound healing, I feel like it is respective, but anytime that you utilize any of those kind of modalities, whether it's crystal or anything that utilizes a concept, it's a limiting belief. So they work for different levels of persons going through certain times of their process. And so other people, it's not effective for them at all. So I feel like it's part of a belief system also, whereas you're the channeler, and so you are the energetic tool that does the clearing and healing. you know um
Well,
the
as I always say, I mean, I'm not a healer. I
Mhm.
build the belief that a person can heal themselves. So it's
Yes.
building the belief in a person that they have the faith that they can heal themselves. And
Yeah.
I often say it really doesn't matter what modality it is. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what it is. It,
No, it
it
doesn't.
could be that. And, you know,
Yeah.
again, I think if we just expand our mind to two things
Mhm.
are open, then magic can happen.
Yeah. I just had this conversation with a gal earlier, one of my clients that I've been working with for a little while, and she is now conscious and open enough that she is doing her own healing,
Mm.
and she's implementing that consciously. And she messaged me today and she was like, "This is what I'm doing." And I'm like, "I'm so proud of you."
Mm.
Because it takes getting to that particular consciousness to be able to open that concept that, hey, this is me, this is something I can do. And then you channel it yourself, and then you focus your energy wherever you want your healing modality to go.
Mm. Amazing, Danelle. We've been talking for about an hour or so now, and
Yeah,
we could be talking forever, I feel. And
I'm sure we could.
just blown away with the connection and where I actually came to me before. I think we actually connected in one of those Schumann resonance group. I
Hmm.
think that's where it was.
Yeah, it was.
Uh,
Yeah, it was.
and yeah, absolutely amazing. And this is um, what I can say to everyone now is that just trust that if you're guided to connect with someone or do something, you know, go and do that because
Yeah.
we are getting all these signs everywhere, aren't we? We're getting
Oh, yeah, and it comes from all over the place. I mean, like if you're open to consciously seeing it and understanding it, the guidance is everywhere. And I call it Easter eggs. My kiddo laughs at me because he's like, "That's a video game reference, Mom." And I'm like, "Well, you got to kind of think of life as like a video game."
yeah.
Um, but when you ask for these signs, and some people, it's like they ask from God or from spirit or higher self. These are all things that your higher self has left for yourself to guide you
Mhm.
and to lead you and show you,
Yeah,
that you're being held and supported and
yeah, yeah.
all that jazz.
So before we finish, I just want to ask you one last thing. And is there anything particular you want to share with the audience today before we finish?
Mm. I have so many things. Be open. Allow yourself to be open. That is the only thing. There's so many people that are so embedded and inbound with limiting beliefs, and constructs, that things that we have been taught that are limiting consciousness
Mm,
and fear. The more that you collectively and consciously play into the fears that are presented through social media and the news, the more those things present itself in the reality. And that's what people can't understand. Everybody's like, "Oh, this is happening or this is going on." And the more that the collective consciousness plays into that type of timeline, that is the more that it's going to be reality, in realized. And the more that people pull their attention back from drama and the things that they deem as important, but really they're creating
mm.
chaos by
Absolutely.
by you know
Imagine if we all stepped away. I myself, I haven't had a TV for I can't remember. I I mean, and a lot of people live in that reality. When my kids were
Mhm.
young, they grew up practically without a TV. So,
Yeah.
that brings out the creative side in someone, and we're not feeding that energy. Imagine if we all just turned off all that drama, and we decide to not do drama anymore, we will live in a very, very different world.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what we're trying to spread. And, open the creative mind,
Yeah.
find your creative senses and be patient,
Yeah.
be love,
Mm.
and just work on emotional intelligence. That's the key factor. I
That's
do a podcast with a doctor in India that's on emotional intelligence, and we talk a lot about it.
Oh my goodness, Danelle, it's my favorite topic. And now you're telling me more and more. And I know that we
Oh,
personally
you'll
have
have to join us
we
sometime.
absolutely we have to personally connect. I feel very guided to
Yeah.
you know, definitely get to know you better. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. I am so grateful to have you here. And thank you to you and to all the listeners and all the people that are watching this on YouTube as well. Make sure you read the comments. You can connect with us or see what's going on. And of course, subscribe to the podcast channel and to the YouTube as well. And I look forward to, having more contact with you and, of course, providing more awakening content on my podcast too, because it's definitely something that it's just become my journey, and obviously I'm stepping more and more into that. So thank you,
It's a game
everyone.
changer.
All
Well,
right.
I truly appreciate being here and having this conversation with you. And if anybody wants to follow me, you can find me under Danelle Boyles on Facebook or Emotions and Art, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. We'll post that
Yeah.
in the comments below so people can find the details. So thank you very much, Danelle. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Bye.